I took a little bit of some digs and whatnot from teammates for how loud I would scream out there. But you know what? Hey, grand scheme of things, you're welcome.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we've seen how you're built, so you don't want to get in a collision with you. You're going to come out on top of that. Yeah.
Hey, everybody, this is Greg Zahn.
This is Anthony Telford.
You're listening to The Walk-Off with Scott Belford and Adam Mack.
All right. We are thrilled to be joined by our guest this week, long-standing member of the Canadian national baseball team. In fact, he has a gold medal for his efforts from the 2015 Pan Am Games, has played for professional baseball for over a decade. Tyson Gillies, welcome to The Walk-Off, man. Thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, how you doing? Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so you were out finishing up your Christmas shopping here, trying to get stuff done in the middle of a pandemic, eh?
Yes, I'm up here in actually beautiful wine country, up here in Kelowna, BC.
Nice. The Okanagan, one of the best places, man.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, my parents just moved to Peachland, so I went up to visit the new family's summer home, and yeah, I look forward to building some memories here.
Right on, and you're actually a Vancouver boy, right? That's where you kind of...
Oh, so all over. Born and raised in Vancouver, but grew up in the interior in Kamloops and Chase, BC myself. So it's kind of close to home.
Right on. I can imagine 2020 was probably a bit of an odd year for you, right? With minor league and independent ball not running, as a guy who for 15 years has played ball in the summer. Well, probably longer, since before you were a pro. What did you do to keep busy this summer?
Yeah, actually, it was my first real summer off, actually full summer off since I was 11 years old, to be honest with you. So we're going on 20 plus years now. And I'm not going to lie, for a little bit, I didn't know what to do with myself, but it was kind of nice to be able to go to the beach and go boating and do things like that some people take for granted. And I really enjoyed myself, and, being able to catch long lost friends in the summer, and a lot more people were doing fun events, patios, concerts, and whatnot. Well, not so much concerts with the pandemic going on. So it kind of made it a little bit different, but, I made the best of it.
Did you find it tricky to continue to train and stay motivated to stay game shape with not even a league to play in?
Well, actually, I was coming to terms of basically my baseball career ending anyways. So it was a perfect time for me to get out.
Right.
And, it worked out really well that way. But as far as the training, no, you'll never see me taking a break from that side of the lifestyle. So that's always going to be a part of me.
So for 2021, are you looking to get into a league again, or are you pretty much hanging it up for that, for being a player?
I think I would say I'm more so hanging it up for sure. Obviously, I get the itch every now and then, especially being around the kids and seeing how much they're enjoying, batting practice and pitching. And, it kind of makes me miss it and kind of feel like, I could go back. I could play another year or two. I mean, I feel like I'm the greatest shape of my life right now. So, we'll see. But I don't think I would be coming back as an outfielder. I think I'd be trying to come back and pitch somewhere and just have a good time and, have a different experience.
That's great, man. Does it make you a little bit... I don't know, sad. There's probably a better word than sad for it. But what are the feelings of kind of getting to the end of the playing side of things and maybe it becoming more fun and less of a way to make your living?
Well, I won't lie. It's more of the difficulties of dealing with, parting ways with such an experience you had in your life. And it's really tough not to reminisce the glory days, the olden years that you met so many amazing personalities and built so many strong friendships all over the world. And I think that's the hardest part to kind of break away from. And, now it's got to come to terms with it, but that doesn't mean that I can't build, newfound friendships and different parts and aspects of life. It's different career paths, jobs. And,
of course,
now I love to just, give back to our little guys and our baseball community and help grow them and get them onto a path that they can have those amazing experiences and travel the world just like I did.
Well, I know obviously new adventures await. you've actually recently gotten involved in youth development side of athletics. Tell me a little about Travail, which is your new company that you and fellow Canadian ball player Michael Krause has founded.
Well, him and I, we've always wanted to give back to the baseball community, and in life you should always stick to what stick to your strengths, and try not to have a job,
Yes.
that you come to work every day and you're a little depressed or you don't want to be there, and just coming to Travail every day and it not feeling like work and feeling like we're really building connections with these kids. It's been amazing. We're probably on a maybe 13 for 14 15 months now since we've been a company, and it's amazing. But Mike and I really take into context that we're so big on the athletic side of it, building athletes first, not baseball players. So we're really huge when it comes to the functional training and basically getting these kids' bodies ready for baseball and other sports. Not so much, hey, it's just strictly baseball. And if you look up the meaning of travail, it's painful, laborious effort. So that's what we do. We train our kids hard.
Well, strength and conditioning has always been something you've kind of prided yourself on anyways, right? So
absolutely. So these kids know when they come into class, hey, you guys are you're here to work. And I want our kids to take away from travail the mindset of, hey, I may never be the best, but I'm sure as hell going to try and outlast it. So that's one thing that for me always, obviously, how I grew up, the hearing impairment, the permanent chip on my shoulder. That's always been the biggest thing for me, the biggest focus to kind of separate myself. And, it's such a marathon of a game that these kids, they fizzle out of it at too early of an age because they feel like, hey, I'm not going to be as good as that guy. And you know what, if there's one thing I took away from playing professionally, and I heard Eric Kratz said in the Phillies locker room today, he's like, I don't have to be the best. I just have to outlast them. And that stuck to me to this day. And you saw him make his debut at probably, 35, 36 years old. And then he went on to have some years up in the big leagues. But, it's such a marathon in the game. You have to have that mentality, but that mentality for our kids plays a big role in being successful in life in general. So that's what I want them to take away from it is I don't care if you go and have a successful career in baseball, but Michael and myself are very well going to put a stamp out there. Hey, this is how you guys can be successful later on in the game called life. Don't worry about ball in general.
Right. And I know you did just kind of touch on it there, that you have been hearing impaired your whole life. How hearing impaired are you? Is it both ears? And without your hearing aids, are you pretty much useless, or?
I would say, pretty useless. We'll go with that. So I have a profound hearing loss. So I'm about 95 decibels negative.
Okay.
So legally deaf. With the hearing aids out, I don't hear anything. And somehow I was able to, go through life speaking, pretty perfect and appearing as, in quotes, I hate saying it, as normal as anyone else. But obviously I've had my...
Well, even I've phrased that pretty bad, being like, your hearing's useless. No, that's, like...
Oh, that's all right. I've heard worse. That's much worse. And hey, I'm not upset about hearing worse because that also helped shape me as the person I am today.
Well, you actually can read lips, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was reading lips and speaking 400 or 500 sentences by the age of 3-4 years old.
Oh wow. It must have been a nightmare for your parents trying to hide anything from you if they were in the room and thought you were out of earshot, eh?
Absolutely. Well, they didn't, nobody found out till I was around 4.5 years old. So I fooled everybody for that long.
I'm curious as a hearing impaired player, there must have been some real obstacles to overcome. I can imagine even little things like being called off for a pop fly must have presented some difficulties that maybe most players didn't. How did you circumvent some of that stuff? How did you get over that?
Well, for starters, I tried to be the fastest person on the field on every team, so I played center field. So that there's the number one that kind of helped separate
be a
me.
Speed demon. Okay, yeah.
So anything in the air, I had priority. Get out of the way. But no, basically it was building trust with my teammates. They started to realize, hey, this guy's aware. You know, he's using his vision more so than the general population playing baseball. So my awareness had to be much sharper than everybody else. And in my whole career, I had one collision, and I'm confident to say that it was not my fault. But
well, I mean, let's face it. Most guys probably can say they've had one collision in their ball career and aren't deaf. So, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew I had to be the loudest and most vocal person on the field. And that's basically how I went about it. And obviously, I took a little bit of some digs and whatnot from teammates for how loud I would scream out there. But you know what? Hey, grand scheme of things, you're welcome.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we've seen how you're built, so you don't want to get in a collision with you. You're going to come out on top of that. Yeah. I know off the top, you kind of mentioned the glory days. So let's talk about that for just a second, because you got to experience something that probably 0.01% of Canadian athletes get to experience. And that's that you were drafted. 2006, the Seattle Mariners took you late in the draft. Were you expected to go that year? And when your name finally was picked, what was the feelings?
I mean, first off, I was shocked. The Mariners were literally, actually, no, there was probably only a few teams that I spoke with, but the Mariners weren't even in conversation. They never reached out. They never talked to, actually, no, I didn't have an advisor, but they never talked to my coach, Doug Matheson, or anything at the time. And it was very surreal. Like, I wasn't expecting to get drafted. Obviously, leaving Kamloops at 15 to go billet for the Blaze, I wasn't ever expecting to play baseball, let alone get a scholarship.
Right.
I thought I was going to end up playing hockey somewhere, maybe some junior, some beer league after that, and call it a day. But you know, I was thrilled, and obviously it changed my life. I went to college after that for 1 year, and they wanted to sign me a professional contract, and the rest was history.
That's incredible, man. As a Vancouver boy, did it mean anything extra going to the Mariners, or you didn't care?
Oh, I mean, yes, that was everything. That was my favorite team. I remember being 12 years old in Pee Wee, and we had our hats for our team, our Kamloops River Dogs. We had our hats for our team, and we got to put our little nicknames on the back. And my nickname was Little Griff.
Nice.
And before you know it, in 2009, I'm in big league spring training with Ken Griffey Jr. as his comeback. So I'm like,
wow.
It kind of worked out that way, and that's probably the first time in my life I've ever been starstruck, and that's probably one of the biggest memories I'll take away from my career.
Just being on a field with Ken Griffey, unbelievable, right?
Wow.
So for most of your professional career, and you did kind of touch on this, speed has always kind of been one of your top tools in your arsenal. And I mean, I know you're still have elite speed, but I mean, 10 years ago, you were literally leading the leagues you played in stolen bases. What is your mindset? Like, tell us a little bit about the art of stealing bases. Like, when you're on the base path and you decide you're going to go, what are you watching for? What are you looking for in the opposing pitcher? And did you always have a green light? Like, was the manager always like, Tyson, if you can go for it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I love so much about the Mariners and Pedro Grifol at the time. They wanted me to go. They wanted me to get out of my comfort zone. They wanted me to learn my boundaries. And yeah, it was always green light. He even said, hey, you got 2 strikes on you and you want to bunt, you go for it. Wow. You know, that's the kind of trust they had in me. And that was an amazing experience. And obviously teaching these young kids now, with myself and Michael's a great base stealer. He's got a great mindset for it, is teaching the kids, you know, there's so much you can do before you actually get between the lines and you're leading off first. And what's the pitcher throwing? What's he throwing? What's his little tells? You can tell from the bench, what's he moving first? How's the catcher? Like there's so many different aspects of it. And obviously as a young kid, I didn't really know any of those. I was just fast runner and I was on the base, and you knew I was going. There was no surprise there. And I was super aggressive.
As someone who base stealing was such a big part of their game, and in a time in the game where, especially the last decade, maybe even 2 decades, you've seen stolen bases decline as a part of most teams' arsenal. Do you think there's still, I mean, we're starting to see base stealers being a thing again, right? Where you're seeing speed as something teams are looking for. Do you think there will be a resurgence in that? Like, do you think the pendulum will swing back to kind of a happy medium? Because even 3-4 years ago, you almost didn't see anyone stealing bases.
Well, big reason for that is injuries. I mean, injuries, like you're stealing, you're going in there sliding head first, your shoulder. I've had shoulder surgery. I've had foot surgery. I've had my hands stepped on, like all these things. And a lot of these players are, with the way fitness and health and fitness is now, and the training outside of it, these kids are getting strong and people are driving balls more. So these players aren't just 1-2 tool players anymore. The ones getting up to the big leagues are 3 tool players. So they're hitting for power and stealing bags, but the teams want them to stay healthy. So a lot of times, even Trout, obviously a freak of nature, he can still bags all day. But hey, that one slide into second base, now you have somebody out of the lineup who can put 100 plus RBIs up and plus 30 plus home runs. Like over a couple runs and a couple stolen bases. Like, it's not worth it. So I hope to see more of that, because it's a very exciting part of the game. And I know obviously in the Atlantic League and on these independent leagues, as they're starting to enforce more of the running game again, as some of these concepts of putting second base further, and hey, you can't do an inside move anymore, and hey, you can steal steal from home to first now in Atlantic League. I'm like, that to me is kind of ridiculous, but yeah. I guess that's what they're trying to do. They're starting to wanting to put the excitement, and not just home runs and hitting a long ball, but also, back to the running, because speed is very exciting. Speed kills.
It's so exciting, on both sides of the ball too. Like you mentioned, playing center field. Like, there's nothing I loved more as a Jays fan, watching Kevin Pillar just lay it all out there back in the 15-16 when they made their runs, right? So, and I know you kind of touched on this too when you met Griffey and stuff like that. 2009 was kind of a cool year for you.
Yeah.
Because not only did you get to be involved in the futures at the 2009 AllStar game, but you just got to hang out for the whole weekend. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was amazing. It was absolutely unreal. I mean, being a young kid, I hadn't even made an all-star team, and all of a sudden I get a phone call, hey, you're going to the futures game. I was just like, what is that? So going there, flying over there to St. Louis and experience the city and Busch Stadium, like, what an amazing place. And seeing 30 plus thousand fans, and it was amazing, despite the 4-hour rain delay we had to go through. But being a young kid, getting your first card deal, signing autographs, and you're just like, wow. I was like, this is what it's all about. And then obviously meeting some amazing mentors there, like Verlander and Morneau, like Granderson, like guys like that you got to hang out with. And it was super cool.
Yeah, I can imagine that must have felt so surreal. You've always been a mainstay, or at least the last decade, on the men's Canadian national baseball team. Does that ever get old? What's it like representing the Maple Leaf? Is it cool?
No, it's the greatest. That's probably the single greatest experience of playing baseball for any of us, I feel like. And I think most of the Team Canada alumni will tell you the same thing. I was like, there's just something about that clubhouse, the way Ernie and Greg run that program. It's just it's on another level. And those are probably the moments that when we talk about being a little depressed, being out of the game, being a little sad, like, those are the ones that hit you the hardest.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about winning the gold in 2015 at the Pan Am Games on Canadian soil?
Oh, it was amazing. That was like such a nerve-wracking game. Like that whole thing, like basically the first meeting we had on the field there in the Pan Ams, it was just like, hey guys, we're at home right now. And everyone kind of just looks at each other. It's just like, yeah, we're here to win. And sure enough, we got a couple little lucky breaks, but hey, the team we had there and that team that we took to the Premier 12 after that, that team was something else.
I was living in Toronto at the time, and the whole city was like a buzz. It was awesome. It was just, I think part of it too is that you weren't necessarily supposed to be the ones to win. You know, like the Canadian team was still a bit of an underdog, and to watch it happen was, it was very exciting. That's very cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you saw that pitching staff that Team USA had, and and then it was pretty impressive. So
yeah, definitely. So I'm Tyson. I might ramble a little here because I really wish to set this up for the listener the best I can. So you were involved in one of the most wild moments in WBC, World Baseball Championship history, right? In 2013, Team Canada and Team Mexico, they had a full-on brawl. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, I still watch the replay of it. Like, it's just like one of the crazier things in baseball, how intense it got, right? And you were there. Like, man, you're like, yeah, I know. Like, you're like, I was there. And we had listeners who were honestly in the crowd, and when they heard that you were going to be on the cast, emailed us and were like, you have to get his behind the scenes take on it. Can you kind of go through what happened in that brawl and how it kind of played out?
I mean, that's the tough thing about baseball is distinguishing between international and professional play. And obviously the runs for and against can be very crucial in winning your pool. So we knew that because, I mean, Canada's always had, such a great international program. And so we had a veteran up there, Chris Robinson, and he put a bunt down, which, hey, all of us didn't really think much of it. I was like, we need to get more runs. We need to rack up the score.
And for everyone listening with international baseball, like the way it works is it's not necessarily if you win, like the amount of runs scored means a lot. So that's what he's talking about there. Sorry, Tyson, go ahead.
Exactly. So, hey, we put that down and they didn't really like that. And so you got Tassoni up and then you have me on deck, and all of a sudden everybody knew that first fastball was coming inside. Boom, there it is.
Yeah.
But you got one shot at it, maybe two. Here comes the second one. Boom, there you go. All right, it's got to be over. And then here you go, third one straight in the back. And that's when it's just like, everyone just, you knew it was coming. You knew it was happening. You could see the Jay Johnson and the Matheson and the boys in the bullpen sprinting down, absolutely sprinting down. And everybody was kind of grabbing on, and I remember Alfredo Aceves grabbed onto me, and I wasn't really paying all that much attention, and I saw Matheson and stuff breaking out in the middle, so I'm like, God, those are my brothers out there. I've known these guys for years. So I'm going to go and try and protect as many people as I can. So I had to politely move Mr. Aceves aside.
Gently set him to the side,
jump into the scrum there, and sure enough, that's when everything broke loose. I think at one time I had Brett Laurie and Alfredo Aceves on top of me in the scrum. I couldn't breathe for a while, and Matheson is going crazy in there, and everyone's just trying to protect the guy beside him in the leaf. And then you see Jay Johnson sitting there getting ready for, I don't know what seems to be some kind of sparring match. And everyone kind of just went crazy, and there was a lot of bodies. And
I think it was why it was such a big deal in the baseball community is that I mean, there's lots of times where the bench is clear and it just is like everyone's kind of like talking and like a few shoves, but like This was full on punches being thrown, guys being dogpiled. Like, it was intense. And I know that our listeners, we had two who were actually in the crowd at the time, and they were saying that it was even scary in the crowd.
Yes.
That, like, things were getting really intense. Was that something you noticed at the time, or was it you were so in the moment that it wasn't until later on that you saw how crazy it actually could have gotten?
Oh, I was in the moment in there. I think at one point I was crawling around on the ground trying to find my hearing aid that flew out of my ear. it was one of those moments that it was just like, what is going on? There's cleats everywhere and bodies were flying. And I'm not going to lie to you, that Team Canada group was a big group of boys, like massive group of boys. So I think Team Mexico was a little frightened, a little worried, and so were we. You know, nobody wants to install hurt on anybody. You know, everyone just is trying to get out of there alive and make sure their teammates not getting hurt. And you know, we had a lot of guys in there that couldn't afford to get hurt, like Votto, Morneau, like you know, those guys. Those guys was like, hey, we're the young guys. We're on the front line. We're protecting these guys. That's our job.
Yeah.
And obviously the fans started to throw things into onto the field, like ball at Larry Walker, threw that water bottle at Chris LaRue that he somehow got out of the way of and hit the pitching coach right in the face. And it was crazy. And obviously I think the funniest part about the whole thing is Jay Johnson got ejected from the game, but he walked down to the bullpen and threw aside after that. so there's after that, everyone was kind of like, oh, what are they going to say to us? But I won't say any names, but I walked into the Canada Club. I was kind of with my head down after that win, thinking, oh, they're going to say something to me. And I got looked in the eye. I think, like I said, I won't say names. And it was just like, this is probably the most proud I've ever been in this country. And I was just like, all right, I guess that Canada has that kind of fire hockey mentality, and that's something that we take pride in. And everybody took care of each other just how I knew they would. And just how
even watching the clips, that's one thing that stands out is it's a band of brothers. Like, everyone had each other's back more than I've ever seen in a baseball brawl, maybe. Like, it was, it stood out, man. That was crazy.
It's very special. I think Canada is one of the few teams that literally has that kind of history with their international baseball teams, because a lot of the guys have been playing on those teams for like 10 plus years. So, you know, it's very special. It's very different. And I'm hoping in the future, like, I would love to stay involved any way I can with Baseball Canada. And that's very important to me.
That's great. Before I let you go, I do have one last listener question here for you. The listeners were curious what it was like to be a part of such a major trade when you were shipped to the Philadelphia organization. You were actually one of the prospects going the other way when Roy Halladay went to Philly and Cliff Lee went to Seattle, and it was just like a really huge trade. What was that when it initially came down? How did that feel?
You know, it was obviously very exciting. Just turned 21, and at first, honestly, I was kind of sad because one of my best friends, Philippe Amont, that I came up with the Mariners, I was hearing that he was getting traded to Toronto, so I called him, and then I heard he was going to the Phillies. So I'm like, you're breaking up the brothers right now, and I was like, hey, you're going too. I'm like, oh man, no way. I was like, oh wait, no way. So obviously I was very excited, but I was very sad also to leave the Mariners. I had such a great relationship with them, and they knew me as a young player coming up and what I was capable of. And, you know, I was confident that they were going to let me be myself and, you know, do my own thing. And when you're going to a new organization, you don't really get that, kind of comfort going in there. Obviously, everybody wants to bring you in and put their stamp on you and turn you into something that they think is going to obviously put you on the map, but put themselves on the map as well. And I think that's something that can really ruin some players at the same time. And so obviously it was a great experience, but if I had the choice, I would have obviously loved to stay in Seattle.
Really? That's interesting. I like hearing that. So it's nothing against the Philly system, but had you had your choice, you enjoyed being in the Seattle system a little more.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
That's great. Did you have, before I let you go, number one, thank you so much, man, for taking the time to chat with
Not
us.
a problem.
I know Adam kind of pulling that old Kamloops buddy card, so that's great that he was managed to get a hold of you. Did you have anything you wanted to plug or push here before we let you go?
No. Honestly, this has been great. Thank you so much for having me. I always love talking baseball. More about the experience of baseball and the come up over more like the numbers or the statistics in the game or the analytics. I mean, that side of the game, I'm old school, man. Like that side of the game, we haven't really bought into. It's like, we're just going to try and build some warriors to get out there and compete.
I love it. Right on, brother. Thank you so much.